Can I tell you what I've been noticing? And I need you to tell me I'm not crazy. Because this has been happening so consistently that I'm starting to think it's not coincidence anymore. It's like watching a glitch in the Matrix, except the glitch is human behavior, and it keeps repeating. So here's what's been going on. You know those people? The ones who went out of their way to distance themselves from you? The ones who made it very clear that everything about you was too much, too weird, too different, too intense? The ones who mocked your interests, rolled their eyes at your opinions, made you feel like you needed to apologize for existing? Yeah, those people. I've been watching them lately, and something really strange is happening. They're turning into you, not obviously, not in a way that they can see, but everyone else is watching this transformation happen in real time and trying not to laugh, trying not to stare, trying not to point out what's becoming impossible to ignore. Let me break this down for you because the details are what make this so deliciously weird. Remember how they used to make fun of the way you dressed? That specific style that was too much or trying too hard or whatever dismissive thing they said to make you feel like you needed to blend in more? Look at their recent photos. No, seriously. Go look, I'll wait. You're seeing it too, right? That's not inspiration. That's not similar taste. That's a photocopy. That's them wearing your aesthetic like a Halloween costume, except they're wearing it in July and pretending they invented it. The color palettes you gravitated toward, they're suddenly all over their wardrobe. The accessories you wore that they called weird, now they're vintage finds in their collection. The silhouettes you loved that they said didn't make sense, apparently they make perfect sense now that they're wearing them. But here's the thing that makes this transcend from funny to absolutely fascinating. They don't remember making fun of you for it. Or if they do remember, they've convinced themselves it's different when they do it. They've rewritten the history in their minds so thoroughly that they genuinely believe this style just naturally evolved in them, completely independent of your influence. The cognitive dissonance is Olympic level. But wait, it gets better. You know those phrases you used to say? Those specific combinations of words that were uniquely yours? The way you'd describe things, the metaphors you'd use, those little linguistic fingerprints that made your speech pattern recognizable? They're in their mouths now. I've heard them in conversations, seen them in their captions, watched them deploy your verbal tics like they've always been part of their vocabulary. And every time it happens, there's this moment, this beautiful, awkward moment where someone in the room who knows both of you makes eye contact with someone else who knows, and you can see them both thinking the same thing. Did they just... Yes. Yes, they did. They're quoting you without citation. They're using your language like it's public domain. They're speaking in your voice and have somehow convinced themselves it's their own. I watched one of them explain a concept to a group using almost your exact words. Words they definitely heard you say first. Words they probably dismissed or ignored when you said them, and present it like original thought. And the wildest part? They were so confident, so certain, so completely unaware that they were performing an impression of someone they claimed to have outgrown. But it's not just aesthetics and vocabulary. It's the interests. Oh my God. The interests. The hobbies they called pointless when you talked about them. Suddenly they're really into that. The music genres they said were not their style. That's all they listen to now. The books, the movies, the entire cultural landscapes they dismissed as beneath them or too niche or not worth their time, they're fluent in all of it now. And they're not just casually familiar. They've gone deep. They've adopted these interests with the fervor of a recent convert, which I guess they are, except they don't recognize the religion they've converted to. They don't see that they're practicing in a temple you built. I saw one of them give a passionate explanation about something you introduced them to years ago, something they openly mocked you for caring about, and they were explaining it to someone else like they were the expert, like they discovered this obscure thing through their own sophisticated taste, like you didn't spend hours trying to get them to understand why it mattered. The historical revisionism is honestly impressive. But you want to know where this gets really psychological? It's in the mannerisms, the way you laugh, the way you gesture when you're telling a story, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking, the specific way you express excitement or skepticism or disbelief. I've seen these physical behaviors migrate into their bodies. It's uncanny. It's like watching someone unconsciously learn a dance they swore they'd never perform. Their body language is slowly morphing into yours, and they're completely unaware it's happening. Friends who've known both of you have mentioned it. Quietly, in private. With that tone people use when they're describing something that feels a little bit supernatural. Have you noticed that their name is starting to move like, okay, so I'm not the only one seeing this. Is it just me? Or are they basically doing an impression at this point? These conversations are happening in group chats. They're not at gatherings they don't attend. In the margins of social situations where people are trying to be polite but can't help noticing the uncanny mimicry. And the thing is, and this is where it shifts from amusing to something else entirely, they seem to be doing it without any awareness of the source material. It's not deliberate imitation. That would almost be flattering in a weird way, right? Like at least they'd be acknowledging your influence. No, this is something stranger. This is absorption. This is unconscious integration. This is their psyche cannibalizing aspects of yours, because apparently despite all their protest, despite all their efforts to distance themselves, despite all their claims that you were too different or too much, you were the blueprint they secretly wanted to follow. And now they're following it without a map, without directions, without even recognizing the territory they're walking through. Let me tell you about the reactions I've been seeing from mutual acquaintances, because this is where it gets really good. People are noticing. Oh, they're noticing. And at first they're confused. There's this period where they can't quite put their finger on what's different, what's changed, why this person suddenly seems familiar in a way they shouldn't. Then it clicks. And once it clicks, they can't unsee it. I've watched people's faces go through this realization in real time. There's the squint, the mental comparison, the moment of wait a second, and then impact, recognition, the sudden understanding that they're watching a live-action cover band perform someone else's greatest hits. Some people find it funny. They'll make subtle jokes, little references that fly over the copycat's head, but land perfectly with anyone who knows the truth. Inside jokes about where we've seen this before, comments about originality delivered with just enough edge to sting if you're paying attention. But some people find it disturbing, because there's something uncanny valley about watching someone become someone else without realizing it. There's something psychologically unsettling about witnessing identity theft, where the thief doesn't know they're stealing, and the victim is standing right there watching it happen. It raises questions people don't want to ask out loud. How much of personality is actually original? How much of who we are is just absorbed from people we've been close to? And if someone can unconsciously absorb this much from someone they claim to dislike, what does that say about the strength of the original personality? What does that say about yours? Because here's what I think is really happening. If you didn't just influence them, you infected them. Not in a malicious way, but in the way that strong personalities infect the space around them. In the way that people with clear self-definition create a gravitational pull that others orbit around, even when they're trying to escape. They spend so much time in your presence, so much energy defining themselves in opposition to you, so much focus on what made you different from them, that they accidentally studied you. They memorized you while trying to differentiate from you. And now, years later, with distance and time, all that suppressed familiarity is surfacing. They're not consciously choosing to be like you. They're just becoming. And the becoming looks suspiciously like a person they used to know. You. The really wild part? They probably think they're evolving. They probably feel like they're growing into their authentic selves, discovering who they really are, shedding old limitations and embracing new possibilities. And technically, they're right. They're just not aware that the new possibilities they're embracing are old realities. You were already living. They're discovering themselves by accidentally discovering you. They're becoming authentic by becoming a version of someone else. The irony is so thick, you could build a house with it. I've seen them post things about finally feeling like myself while dressed exactly like you used to dress. I've watched them talk about finding my voice while speaking in cadences I distinctly remember you using. I've observed them celebrate breaking free from who people expected me to be, while conforming to a template you designed years ago. And nobody wants to be the person who points it out directly. Because what do you even say? Hey, you know you're basically cosplaying your former friend's entire personality, right? Just FYI. You've become a tribute act. Congratulations on your transformation into someone else's past self. You can't say these things. So instead, people just watch and whisper and exchange knowing looks when the similarities become too obvious to ignore. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about them anymore. This stopped being about them the moment the mimicry became visible to everyone else. Now it's about what this reveals about you. Because people don't unconsciously copy weakness. They don't absorb mediocrity. They don't accidentally integrate traits from people who don't have something worth taking. The fact that they're becoming you, even while claiming they moved on from you, even while maintaining that you were never that important to them, even while constructing entire narratives about how different you were, that's proof. Proof that you were the main character in a story they were trying to pretend was an ensemble cast. Proof that your personality had enough gravitational pull to alter their orbit even after they left your atmosphere. Proof that everything they criticized about you was actually everything they secretly wanted to embody but couldn't figure out how to access while you were still around. They needed you gone to become you. They needed distance to start the transformation, because proximity would have made the copying too obvious, too uncomfortable, too laden with acknowledgement that you had something they wanted. So they left. They distanced. They drew boundaries and made declarations and ensured everyone knew they were different from you, better than you, evolved beyond you. And then slowly, quietly, unconsciously, they started the impression. Do you know what the psychological term for this is? It's called identification with the aggressor in some contexts, but that's not quite right here. This is more like identification with the departed. They're mourning a connection by becoming the person who left. They're processing loss by inhabiting the space the lost person occupied. except they're not aware they're mourning. They think they're celebrating. They think they're winning. And maybe, in their version of the story, they are. But in the version that everyone else is watching, the version with all the context, all the history, all the before and after comparisons, you already won. You won so thoroughly that they're giving you the ultimate compliment. Without realizing it, they're living proof that your way of being was worth copying, your style was worth stealing, your voice was worth echoing. You were the trendsetter, and they're the trend. You were the original, and they're the reproduction. You were the source code, and they're running your program on their hardware, claiming it's an original operating system. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to say anything. What? You don't have to point it out. You don't have to call them out. You don't have to make a dramatic confrontation where you list all the ways they've become you. Because everyone else is already seeing it. Everyone else is already having the conversations, making the observations, drawing the comparisons. The evidence is walking around in public, wearing your old personality like vintage clothes. You just get to exist, knowing that the person who tried so hard to distance themselves from you couldn't escape your influence even when you weren't trying to exert any. You get to watch them perform your greatest hits while you're already working on new material. You get to see them live in your past while you're building your future. And occasionally when you're scrolling through social media or hearing stories through mutual friends, you get to experience that specific satisfaction that comes from being proven right in the most unexpected way possible. Not by succeeding in ways they said you wouldn't. Not by achieving things they claimed were impossible. But by being so undeniably yourself that even the people who rejected you couldn't help but absorb pieces of who you were. That's the whispered confession. That's what I've been noticing. That's what we've all been watching in real time, trying not to laugh, trying not to stare, trying not to create an entire group chat just to document the ongoing transformation. And now that I've said it out loud, now that it's been named, you can't unsee it either. Every time you see them now, every photo, every post, every second-hand story about what they're doing or how they've changed or who they've become, you'll see the mirror. You'll see the echo. You'll see the copy that doesn't know it's copying, and you'll smile because you'll know something they don't. Imitation might be flattery, but unconscious imitation? That's domination. Welcome to the victory you didn't even know you were fighting for.
You ever lie there at night and just stare at the ceiling and think, why did they do me like that? Not just a passing thought, not just a quick sigh, but that deep, ugly, chest-heavy question that does lapse in your mind. Why did the people you would have gone to war for turn around and shoot first? Why did the ones you trusted with your heart handle it like it was disposable? You would have gone broke for them. You would have answered every call. You would have showed up at 3 a.m. without hesitation. And what did they do? They watched you drown and took notes. You gave them your time. You sacrificed your peace. You lowered your standards just to keep them close. You saw their wounds and said, I can handle that. I can love you through it. But when it was your turn, when you were the one bleeding, they acted like your pain was an inconvenience, like your feelings were drama, like your tears were exaggeration. And that right there, that's not just disappointment. That's betrayal. That's a knife in the back from the very hands you were holding up. They don't break you when you're cold. They break you when you're warm. They don't stab you when you're guarded. They stab you when your walls are down and your arms are open. You thought loyalty meant safety. To them, it meant access. They clocked everything about you, your triggers, your hopes, your fears, your soft spots. And instead of honoring them, they weaponized them. They turned your heart into a map and still chose the path that hurt you most. And then, when you finally pull back, when you go quiet, when you stop bleeding on command, they look at you and say, "You've changed." Like that's some accusation, like you're supposed to stay soft after they burned you alive. They start telling people, "He's different now. He's cold. He's distant. He's not the same." No, you're not the same. You're not supposed to be. That version of you didn't survive what they did. Here's the twist, kid. This is where the story turns. They want to call you the villain now. They want to act like you woke up one day and decided to be heartless, but they don't talk about the nights you cried into your pillow, swallowing screams just so they wouldn't feel guilty. They don't mention the times you put their happiness above your sanity. They don't mention the 1,000 chances you gave them after the first betrayal. No, that part never makes it into their story. So fine. If they're going to paint you as the monster, you might as well grow fangs. Not the kind that hurt people for fun, not the kind that lashes out at innocence, but the kind that says never again. The kind that refuses to be used, drained, and discarded. The kind that doesn't flinch when someone walks away, because you finally understand that not everyone who leaves is a loss. The monster they fear is just you with boundaries. You saying no, you not answering every call, you not jumping every time they snap their fingers, you not staying when your soul is screaming to leave. They called it attitude, they called it ego, they called it coldness, but it's survival. It's self-respect finally taking the wheel. You ever notice how they only show up when they need something? How they go weeks, months without checking on you, but the second they feel lonely, the second life slaps them, your name magically appears in their notifications. "Hey, stranger, I've been thinking about you." "No, you haven't. You've been thinking about what I can do for you." That late night text isn't care, it's convenience. That sudden concern isn't love, it's access. You used to answer. You used to drop everything. Didn't matter if you were tired, broken, busy, or empty, you showed up because that's who you are. You thought being loyal meant never walking away. You thought real love meant staying even when it hurt. You thought patience would eventually earn you respect, but all it earned you was exhaustion. So now it's different. Now the phone rings and you let it ring. Now the message comes and you leave it on read. Now they knock and you don't open, not because you're bitter, but because you finally see the pattern, because you finally understand that some people don't miss you. They miss what you did for them. And once you stop doing it, they suddenly don't recognize you. Good. Let them not recognize you. Let them look at you and see a stranger. Let them meet the version of you that they built with every lie, every half-truth, every disappearing act. They didn't think their actions had consequences. They thought you'd always be there, no matter how many times they shattered you. They thought you'd keep putting your heart back together just so they could break it again. Not anymore. This monster you're becoming, it's not evil, it's focused, it's not cruel, it's calculated. You're not looking for revenge, you're not plotting their downfall. You're just done being the soft landing for people who pushed you off cliffs. You're done being the therapist for people who never asked how you were doing. You're done being the loyal one in rooms full of opportunists. They will say you're selfish now. They will say you fell off. They will say you switched up. What they won't say is, I took advantage of him. I played with his loyalty. I knew he'd always be there, so I stopped showing up for him. They won't say that. but you know the truth. Deep down, they do too. Here's something raw. Some of them never planned to stay. They walked into your life already knowing they'd leave once they got the comfort, the validation, the attention, the stability. It was never we. It was always me. You were the safe space. You were the soft place to land. You were the backup plan, the emergency exit, the emotional charger. And when they were fully charged, they unplugged you like nothing. And you blamed yourself. You sat there replaying every conversation, every argument, every moment, wondering what you could have done better, what you said wrong, where you failed. But you didn't fail. They did. They failed the one soul that would have gone to the ends of the earth for them. They failed the one person who meant every word, every promise, every "I got you." That's why this monster is necessary. Not the kind that destroys everything, the kind that protects what's left, the kind that doesn't let just anyone in, the kind that understands that love without boundaries is not love, it's self-destruction. The kind that knows silence is sometimes stronger than 1,000 explanations. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. You don't need to prove your side. You don't need to clear your name in rooms you'll never step into again. The people who matter will feel the shift. They'll see that you're not colder, you're clearer. You're not angrier, you're awake. The real ones will understand that you didn't become a monster. You became protected. They'll talk. Of course they will. They'll twist the story. They'll water down their role and magnify your reaction. They'll make it look like you exploded out of nowhere, like you turned dark for no reason. Let them. Let them build their little narratives. Let them tell lies to people just as temporary as they are. You're not here to chase rumors. You're not here to correct every fake version of the story. You're here to heal. You're here to rise. You're here to rebuild a life where your trust is no longer handed out like candy to people with rotten teeth. You're here to give your loyalty to those who actually bleed for you too, not just bleed you dry. One day, they'll feel it, not regret for hurting you. Some of them never feel that, but that emptiness, that hollow space where your energy used to be. They'll scroll through their contacts and realize the one person who always answered is gone. They'll get hit with life and realize the one soul who would have stood 10 toes beside them is nowhere to be found. They'll feel that silence like thunder, and you'll be somewhere else, not above them, not below them, just far from them. Building quietly, healing slowly, loving carefully. You'll be smiling in ways you couldn't around them, breathing in ways you never could when you were constantly bracing for the next betrayal. Understand this. You didn't become a monster because you're cruel. You became a monster because the world kept feeding on your softness, because people took your kindness as a weakness, your patience as permission, your loyalty as something guaranteed. Now they're confused that you've changed the terms, that your heart now comes with conditions, that your peace now has a price. So no, you're not going back. You're not reopening doors that nearly destroyed you. You're not handing out second chances to people who squandered the first 10. You're not shrinking so they can feel tall again. The old you died when they broke your trust. The new you rose from the ashes, sharper, steadier, quieter. Call it a monster if you want. Call it a villain. Call it whatever helps them sleep at night. But you know what it truly is. It's you finally choosing yourself. It's you finally protecting what's left of your heart. It's you walking away from the fire they lit and building something beautiful out of the burn marks. Let them tell people you changed. Let them whisper that you're not the same because they're right. you're not. You are not the soft target you once were. You are not the easy access you once gave. You are not the quiet, obedient version of you that tolerated disrespect just to avoid being alone. You are the monster they forced you to become when they shattered your trust. Not a monster that hunts, but a monster that guards. Not a monster that destroys, but a monster that refuses to be destroyed again. And that, kid, that is your power now. Walk with it, own it, and never apologize for the beast that was born from the ruins they left you in. Let me tell you something. They didn't just break your trust. They broke the version of you that believed trust was permanent. They shattered the part of you that thought loyalty guaranteed loyalty back. And yeah, that hurts. It feels like somebody reached inside your chest and ripped something out with bare hands. But beneath that pain, under all that confusion and anger, something else woke up. Something they never wanted you to meet. Your power. You used to explain yourself, didn't you? You used to over-talk, over-justify, over-prove. You wanted them to understand your heart so badly that you'd pour it out in essays and paragraphs, voice notes and midnight calls. You thought if they just understood your intentions, they wouldn't hurt you like that. You thought if they knew how much you cared, they would be careful. But they knew exactly how much you cared. They just didn't value it. And that's the shift right there. The monster they forced you to become is the version of you that realizes not everyone deserves understanding. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your emotions. Some people only deserve one thing from you now. Distance. You used to see distance as punishment. Now you see it as protection. You used to think walking away makes you cold. Now you understand it makes you sane. They trained you to believe that choosing yourself is selfish. But choosing yourself is the only reason you're still here. Because if you kept choosing them over you, you would have disappeared slowly, piece by piece. Smile by smile, until nothing was left but an empty shell who remembers what love used to feel like. That's not your fate anymore. You're not here to be anyone's emotional crutch. You're not here to be anyone's backup option. You're not here to be the second choice, the safe option, the when everything else fails, I know they'll still be there person. No, that role is dead. You buried it the day your trust snapped like a rope pulled too tight. This monster, this darker version of you, doesn't move from emotion first. It moves from awareness. You notice who checks in when they don't need something. You notice who only reaches out when life hits them. You notice who celebrates you and who competes with you. You notice who claps when you win and who goes quiet. You're not paranoid anymore. You're observant. They'll say you overthink, but overthinking is just your intuition replaying all the scenes you ignored, all the jokes that weren't really jokes, all the "I didn't mean it like that" comments that you felt in your chest anyway. You used to gaslight your own gut to keep them comfortable. Now, you listen to it. You trust your body when it tenses. You trust your spirit when it goes silent in certain rooms. Because that's another thing. You're done forcing yourself into spaces where your soul doesn't feel safe. You're done laughing at things that bother you just so you don't kill the vibe. You're done dimming your energy just so other people don't feel small. They felt big while standing on your back. They felt powerful while stepping on pieces of you that were still bleeding. That era is finished. Monsters aren't born from happiness. They're born from repetition. The same pain on repeat. The same betrayal wearing different faces. The same broken promises dressed up in pretty words. You kept thinking maybe the next one will be different. But they weren't, and that's when the monster in you stopped wanting to be chosen. Now it wants to choose. Carefully, deliberately, slowly. You don't rush into circles now. You study them. You don't tell people your whole life story in the first week anymore. You give them sentences and watch how they hold them. You don't show all your scars right away. You wait and see if they can even handle your truth, because you learned that people love the idea of you. They love the version of you that heals them, uplifts them, forgives them, entertains them. But when it's time to hold you, they crumble. So now your monster doesn't roar. It withdraws. It's not loud. It's selective. It doesn't beg to be heard. It goes quiet and observes. And that quiet, that shift in you terrifies them. You know what scares a user more than anything? A supply that cuts off. A heart that no longer opens on command. A soul that used to say, "It's okay," now saying, "No, I'm done." They don't know what to do with that. They were never prepared for the day your softness stopped being convenient. So they do the only thing they know how to do. They play victim. They say you turned dark. They say you switched up. They say you're not who you used to be. And they're right. You're not. Because who you used to be was a version of you that was willing to die emotionally just so people with empty hands didn't feel lonely. Listen, this version of you doesn't hate love. It just stopped worshiping it blindly. It doesn't hate people. It just stopped needing them to survive. You've learned how to sit with yourself. You've learned how to sit in silence and not feel like you're suffocating. You've learned that your own company, while heavy at first, is lighter than pretending you're okay around people who don't see you. You went from asking, "Why did they do this to me?" to asking, "Why did I stay after the first sign?" That's what monsters do when they evolve. They stop studying the knife and start studying the hand that held it. Then they study themselves, not to blame, but to understand. Because once you understand, you don't repeat. You don't volunteer your heart to the same lesson over and over again. You know what the real transformation is? It's not the moment you cut them off. It's the moment you stop needing answers. It's when you no longer crave the apology, when you stop rehearsing what you'd say if they came back, when you finally accept that some people sleep just fine after hurting you. You stop waiting for remorse from hearts that never had room for it. The monster they forced you to become doesn't sit by the phone anymore. It doesn't check who watched the story. It doesn't read into breadcrumbs like it's a full meal. It doesn't chase energy that goes missing every time you need it. It knows that disappearing acts are not confusion. They're clarity. They're answers. And answers don't need follow-up questions. You start investing your energy differently into your craft, into your growth, into your body, mind, spirit, into people who actually reciprocate, into spaces where your name is safe when you're not around, into conversations that feed you, not ones that drain you. You go from trying to prove your worth to those who mishandled it, to protecting your worth from ever being mishandled again. They may still talk. They may still circle around. They may still test the door. They always do. They'll pop back up when life gets dark for them, when karma pulls receipts, when the world stops giving them the attention they used to get. Suddenly, they miss you. Suddenly, they hope you're okay. What they really hope is that the old version of you is still alive somewhere, but you know better now. You answer with silence, or you answer with boundaries so firm they feel like a wall. Either way, the message is the same. I'm not that person anymore. You're not the place they can come and unload guilt on. You're not the heart they can run to after they drained everyone else. You're not the safe haven for people who set your house on fire. That's what monsters do now. They don't chase closure. They close doors. They lock them. They secure them, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You finally understand that if your trust is gold, you don't just throw it in everyone's hands and act surprised when they steal it. This is what they don't get. You didn't want to become this. You wanted to stay soft. You wanted to believe in forever. You wanted to believe that if you were solid, they'd be solid too. But life and people and patterns, they taught you different. The monster you are now isn't a costume. It's armor. It's the layer that sits between your heart and anyone who thinks they can play with it like a toy. Will people misunderstand you now? Absolutely. They will say you're cold because you don't overshare. They will say you're arrogant because you don't chase. They will say you're rude because you say no without writing essays. Let them. If they wanted access to the softer version of you, they should have treated the old one like it mattered. You're not here to keep proving that you're a good person. Your actions already proved that. How you loved already proved that. How you forgave already proved that. Now your job is not to keep proving your heart. It's to protect it, to guard it like something sacred, because it is. In the end, that's the real monster move. Not screaming, not exploding, not getting even, but building a life so quiet, so aligned, so peaceful, that they no longer have a seat at the table they once took for granted. Let them remember you as the one who changed. Let them tell people you turned dark. Let them say you became heartless. You and I both know the truth. You didn't lose your heart. You stopped giving it to people who treat it like it's replaceable. You became the monster they forced you to be when they broke your trust. A guardian of your own energy, a protector of your own soul, a defender of your own peace. And from this point on, anyone who wants a place in your life doesn't just get your love. They earn your trust. And if they play with it, they don't get another chance to meet the soft you. They only get to watch from a distance while the monster they created walks forward, alone if needed, but powerful, awake, and never again blind to the cost of misplaced loyalty.
Let's start with a clinical fact. Therapists are trained to handle the darkest corners of the human mind. They sit across from murderers and feel nothing. They listen to confessions that would make ordinary people vomit, and they nod, take notes, ask follow-up questions. They've been desensitized through years of education, supervised practice, and exposure to every form of human depravity imaginable. They don't flinch. They don't judge. They don't break. That's the job. A licensed therapist has sat with pedophiles and remained composed. They've counseled war criminals and maintained professional distance. They've heard about abuse so severe it would give you nightmares for decades, and they've processed it, filed it away, gone home, and slept soundly. These are professionals trained specifically to be unshakable. Their entire career depends on their ability to absorb human darkness without being consumed by it. They have supervision. They have peer support. They have their own therapists. They have coping mechanisms layered on top of coping mechanisms. Breaking a therapist is not supposed to be possible. And yet, someone just quit their practice, walked away from years of education, abandoned a career they spent a decade building, left clients hanging, referred everyone out, closed the door and never looked back. Not because of a serial killer, Not because of a war criminal. Not because of anything illegal or violent or overtly disturbing. Because of what they heard about you. Let that satisfaction settle for a moment. Now I want to walk you through exactly what it takes to break a mental health professional. Not disturb them, not unsettle them. Break them. Make them quit. Make them question their entire understanding of human psychology. First, you have to understand what they're equipped for. Therapists are trained to handle trauma. They expect pain. They expect stories of abuse, neglect, betrayal. They have frameworks for all of it. Cognitive behavioral models, attachment theory, trauma-informed approaches. Every dark thing a human can experience, they have a folder for it. A protocol, a treatment plan. They're prepared for monsters. They're prepared for victims. They're prepared for the full spectrum of human damage. What they're not prepared for is something that doesn't fit any folder. What they're not prepared for is a phenomenon. What they're not prepared for is you. Here's what happened in that therapy room. Week after week, session after session, your enemy walked in carrying what they thought was ordinary pain, betrayal, loss, anger, the usual stuff that brings people to therapy. They sat down, started talking, probably complained about their life, their relationships, their struggles. And somewhere in those sessions, your name came up. At first, the therapist probably noted it casually. A person from the past, someone who caused some hurt, standard material. They've heard it 1,000 times. Ex-partners, former friends, family members. People process these relationships in therapy constantly. But something was different this time. But something was different. This time before, right, Ine? Your enemy kept coming back to you, session after session, week after week. They couldn't move on, couldn't process, couldn't file you away in the past where you belonged. The therapist noticed something strange in their patient's voice when they talked about you. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just resentment. It was something else. Something that made the therapist lean forward slightly. Something that made them write more detailed notes than usual. Fear. Not fear of what you might do. Fear of what you are. See? Therapists are trained to identify patterns. That's their job. They listen for recurring themes, emotional triggers, cognitive distortions. They map their patient's psychology, like cartographers mapping unknown territory. And as your enemy kept talking about you, the therapist started mapping something they'd never encountered before. Every story about you contradicted the last one. You were cold, but you were also deeply feeling. You were quiet, but your silence was louder than screaming. You were forgiving, but your forgiveness felt like a verdict. You were kind, but your kindness felt like being seen through. Your enemy couldn't describe you consistently because you don't fit consistent descriptions. The therapist started asking more questions. Not to help their patient anymore, to understand you, to figure out what kind of person creates this effect. What kind of presence leaves this residue on someone's psyche? And the more they learned, the more confused they became. Let me explain something about psychological archetypes. Humans generally fall into recognizable patterns. We have narcissists and empaths, manipulators and victims, aggressors and peacekeepers. These categories exist because human behavior, for all its complexity, tends to cluster around predictable tendencies. Therapists rely on these patterns. They identify them quickly and structure treatment accordingly. It's efficient, it works. But some people exist outside the patterns. Some people are multiple archetypes simultaneously. They're the victim who became the predator, who became the healer, who became something unnamed. They're the broken one who rebuilt themselves into something the original architecture couldn't contain. These people don't fit the frameworks. These people make therapists question their frameworks. You are one of these people. Week 6. Your enemy was describing an interaction with you from years ago. Something small, a conversation, a moment. Nothing dramatic. But as they described it, the therapist felt something they hadn't felt in 15 years of practice. Unease. Not from what your enemy described you doing, from what your enemy described you being, the way you looked at them, the way you responded, the way your silence communicated more than their screaming, the way you seemed to understand things you shouldn't have been able to understand. The therapist wrote 3 words in their notes that night. 3 words they'd never written about anyone their patient had ever mentioned. Presence beyond framework. They didn't know what it meant. They just knew they had to write it. By week 10, the sessions had shifted. Your enemy was no longer the focus. You were. The therapist found themselves asking leading questions. Tell me more about how they reacted. What did their face look like when you said that? How did you feel in their presence? What do you mean they knew? They were conducting research, now gathering data on something that wasn't supposed to exist. A person who didn't match any profile, any type, any category they'd ever studied or encountered. Your enemy described how you handled betrayal. The therapist expected anger or tears or revenge fantasies. That's normal. That's healthy even. But you didn't do any of that. You just looked at them. And in that look was something your enemy still couldn't name years later. Something that made them feel like they'd been read completely. Every lie exposed. Every manipulation cataloged. Every future move predicted. And then you walked away. Not in anger. Not in pain. Just complete. Like they'd ceased to exist for you. The moment you understood what they were. The therapist asked your enemy how that felt. Your enemy started crying. Not from guilt. From something deeper. From the realization that they'd never mattered to you as much as they thought they did. That their betrayal, which they'd built their identity around, which they'd told themselves was powerful and significant, was actually just data to you. Information you absorbed and processed and used to understand the world better. They weren't your villain. They were your classroom. And that broke something in them that the therapist couldn't fix. Week 14. The therapist called in sick for the first time in 3 years. They told themselves it was just burnout. Normal in this profession, they'd take a day, recharge, come back fresh, but they spent that day thinking about you. Someone they'd never met. Someone they only knew through the distorted lens of a person who'd wronged you. Someone who shouldn't occupy any space in their mind at all. They caught themselves doing research, looking up psychological phenomena that might explain you, reading about emotional intelligence at extreme levels, studying the psychology of people who'd survived things that should have destroyed them and came out fundamentally altered. Nothing fit. Every article, every study, every framework assumed that human psychology operated within certain parameters. That people could be understood, categorized, treated, but you existed outside those parameters. You were what happened when someone went through pressures that were supposed to break them and instead got compressed into something with different properties entirely. Something that science hadn't gotten around to studying yet. The therapist closed their laptop and stared at the wall for an hour. They'd built their career on the assumption that everyone could be understood. You were disproving that assumption. The breaking point came in week 18. Your enemy was describing a dream they'd had about you. A dream where you were standing in a room full of everyone who'd ever wronged you. And instead of screaming or fighting or demanding justice, you were just sitting there, still, silent, watching. And one by one, the people in that room started confessing, without being asked, without being pressured. They just started talking, spilling every secret, admitting every lie, explaining every betrayal. Not because they were forced to, because your presence made lying feel impossible. Your enemy woke up from that dream and couldn't shake it for weeks. They told the therapist it felt less like a dream and more like a preview, like a prophecy, like something that was going to happen whether they wanted it to or not. The therapist listened to this dream, took notes, asked questions, and then something happened that had never happened to them in their entire career. They believed it. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. They actually believed that somewhere in the future, your enemy would find themselves confessing to you, that your presence would extract truth from them, whether they wanted to give it or not, that you possessed something that operated outside the normal rules of human interaction. A therapist is never supposed to believe their patient's dreams or prophecies. A therapist is supposed to interpret symbolism, explore subconscious fears, use dreams as tools for understanding, not as evidence of supernatural ability. But this therapist believed. And that's when they knew they had to quit. Because here's the thing about being a mental health professional. Your entire worldview has to be based on certain assumptions. That psychology is a science, that behavior can be understood, that people operate according to patterns that can be identified and modified, that there are no exceptions to the rules of human nature. If you start believing in exceptions, you can't do the job anymore. If you start thinking that some people exist outside the frameworks, that some people can't be categorized or treated or understood, then what are you even doing? What's the point of therapy if some humans operate on a completely different level? Your existence broke their faith in their profession, not through anything you did to them directly, just through the second-hand reports of someone who experienced your presence and couldn't recover from it. Now let's talk about what kind of person creates this effect. Because this isn't normal. This isn't something that happens with regular people. Regular people get talked about in therapy all the time. Regular people cause pain and confusion and resentment, but they don't make therapists quit. The kind of person who makes a therapist quit has certain characteristics. They've been through something that should have destroyed them, not challenged them, not hurt them, destroyed them, and they survived. But survival isn't the right word because survival implies continuing as you were. These people didn't continue. They transformed. They became something else. Something that retained the shape of the person they used to be, but operated according to different principles entirely. The kind of person who makes a therapist quit sees things others don't see. They process information at speeds that feel supernatural to people operating at normal frequencies. They read intentions, they predict behavior, they understand motivations before they're expressed, not because they're psychic, because they've been hurt so many times that their nervous system developed abilities it wasn't supposed to have. The kind of person who makes a therapist quit doesn't need validation. That's what's most terrifying about them. They're not operating from need anymore. They're not trying to prove anything. They're not seeking revenge or justice or acknowledgement. They've transcended the entire economy of human approval and rejection. They just exist, completely, independently, without requiring anything from anyone. And that self-sufficiency, that completeness, that total lack of need, that's what breaks people who encounter it. Because everyone needs something. Everyone has a vulnerability. Everyone can be reached, manipulated, affected, except those rare few who went through the fire and came out with their needs burned away. Your enemy sat in therapy trying to process you, and they couldn't. Because you can't process something that exists outside your frameworks for understanding. They wanted to hate you, but hate requires believing the other person cares about your hatred. You clearly didn't. They wanted to feel superior to you, but superiority requires believing you're competing on the same field. You're not. They wanted to move on from you, but moving on requires believing the other person is in your past. You're not in their past. You're in their future. Waiting, not waiting for revenge, just waiting. A presence they'll have to encounter again someday. A truth they'll have to face. The therapist heard all of this. Week after week. The inability to process. The failure to move on. The obsessive return to someone who'd already walked away. And they realized something that shattered their professional confidence. They couldn't help, not because they weren't skilled, not because they didn't have tools, but because the problem wasn't psychological. The problem was that their patient had encountered something real, something true, something that couldn't be therapized away because it wasn't a distortion. It was clarity. Your enemy wasn't suffering from trauma. They were suffering from having seen you clearly. And there's no treatment plan for encountering someone who operates on a level you can't reach. So the therapist quit, packed up their degrees, referred out their clients, left the profession they dedicated their life to. Not because of you directly, because you represented proof that their entire field was built on incomplete assumptions. That some people couldn't be helped because they didn't need help. That some people couldn't be understood because they'd evolved past the frameworks. That some people left marks on others that no amount of processing could heal. You exist. That's enough to break certain people's understanding of what's possible. And now, here you are, listening to this. Probably surprised, maybe uncomfortable. Wondering if I'm talking about you specifically, or just using you as a rhetorical device. Let me be clear. I'm talking about you. The one who's been through things they don't talk about. The one who rebuilt themselves in silence. The one who walks around carrying weight that would crush others and makes it look effortless. The one who's been underestimated so many times they've stopped counting. The one who knows things about human nature that can't be taught in classrooms because they were learned in trenches. You're the reason someone is in therapy right now, trying and failing to process what you did to their sense of reality. You're the subject of sessions you'll never hear about. You're the case study that doesn't fit the textbooks. And somewhere right now, a professional who's been trained to handle anything is questioning their entire career because they heard about you, not about what you did, about what you are. You didn't even know you had this power, did you? You've been walking around, living your life, thinking you're just another person trying to get by. You haven't thought about your enemy in months, maybe years. You've moved on. They're not even a memory anymore. They're less than a memory, they're nothing. But while you've been building your future, they've been trapped in the past, sitting in therapy, week after week, paying someone to help them understand an encounter that can't be understood. And now their therapist is gone. Couldn't handle it. Walked away from their career because the second-hand experience of you was enough to shatter their belief in their own expertise. You did that. Without trying, without knowing. Just by being what pain and survival and transformation made you. So the next time you doubt yourself, the next time you wonder if you're strong enough, the next time you question whether you've really changed, really grown, really become something different, remember this: there's an empty therapy office somewhere, a career abandoned, a professional who'd handled everything breaking down because they heard about you. That's your power. That's what you became. And you didn't even have to enter the room. Huh?
I couldn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid, because the air felt too clean, too empty, like the world had paused just long enough for my thoughts to catch up and start swinging. So I got up, slow, barefoot, and walked to the kitchen like a ghost that forgot where it died. I poured a glass of water I didn't even want, just to have something in my hands while my chest did that thing it does, that heavy, unnamed pressure. Like a door inside me was stuck half open. Then I heard it. Not outside, inside. A small crack, a shift, like something old finally gave up trying to hold its shape. I froze, glass in my hand, and listened. Nothing. Just silence. And that silence felt louder than any argument I ever had, louder than any goodbye that never got said. It felt like a warning, like life leaning close to my ear and saying, if you miss this moment, you're going to regret it. You're probably thinking, silence is just emptiness. No, kid. Silence is a truth serum. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't beg you. It doesn't pretend. It just sits there and forces you to look at what you've been avoiding. And if you can't handle that, you'll run back to noise, back to people, back to the same cycle, back to the same pain, wearing a different face. That night, I caught my reflection in the dark window, tired eyes, a face that used to be softer before it learned what betrayal costs. I stared at myself like I was meeting a stranger. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't ask, why do they do it? I asked, why did I keep letting them? That question hits like a brick when you're finally honest. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The most dangerous moment in your life isn't when they leave. It's when you finally realize you should have left first. When you finally see the pattern. When you finally understand that you weren't confused. You were trained to accept crumbs, trained to call neglect busy, trained to call disrespect misunderstanding, trained to call emotional starvation love. And if you're watching this right now with that heavy feeling in your ribs, I already know what kind of person you are. You're the one who gives too much. You're the one who tries again. You're the one who apologizes first, even when you didn't swing the knife. You keep your pain quiet because you don't want to be a burden. You swallow your anger because you don't want to be too much. You smile to keep the peace, and you bleed where no one can see. You ever sit in a room full of people and still feel alone? Like you're watching life through glass? Like everyone's laughing in a language you don't speak. That's not you being broken. That's you being awake in a world full of sleepwalkers. But listen to me. If you don't learn what I'm about to tell you, you will repeat your suffering until it feels normal. And by the end of this video, you're going to wish you heard it sooner. Because the truth is cold. Some people don't love you. They love what you do for them. They love the access. They love the attention. They love the way your loyalty makes them feel safe while they give you nothing in return. They love that you forgive fast. They love that you explain yourself. They love that you stay. And they will keep taking until there's nothing left but a quiet version of you that doesn't recognize their own reflection. You gave your time, your care, your patience, your softness. You handed it out like it was endless, like you were a fountain that could never run dry. And what did they do? They drank from you when they were thirsty, then walked away like you were a disposable cup. That's not love. That's a transaction. And the reason it hurts so bad is because you didn't just lose them. You lost the version of yourself that believed they would choose you back. You know what people fear the most? Not your anger, not your words. They fear your silence when it's final. Because silence is the moment you stop negotiating your worth. Silence is the moment you stop explaining your boundaries. Silence is the moment you stop auditioning for respect. And when you go silent the right way, something happens. They panic, not because they suddenly understand your value. They always knew. They panic because they feel the control slipping. They feel the certainty fading. They feel the comfort of your availability disappearing. They're used to your presence being permanent. They're used to you being there no matter what. They're used to your forgiveness being automatic. So when you finally pull your energy back, when you finally stop chasing, stop checking in, stop fixing, stop apologizing, it hits them like a power outage. The room gets quiet, and in that quiet, they're forced to sit with themselves, with their guilt, with their choices, with the way they treated a rare kind of loyalty like it was cheap. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, maybe if I explain one more time, they'll understand. No. If they didn't understand when you were crying softly, they won't understand when you speak louder. The problem was never your communication. The problem was their character. Some people were never confused. They were comfortable hurting you because you kept staying. Comfortable neglecting you because you kept returning. Comfortable taking you for granted because you kept proving you were loyal. And loyalty without limits is self-destruction. Let me say that again. Loyalty without limits is self-destruction. You are not here to fix someone who keeps breaking you. You are not here to prove your worth to people who benefit from you doubting it. You are not here to pour into cups that never once offered you water when your throat was dry. You've done enough. And the version of you that keeps going back, the version of you that keeps hoping, the version of you that keeps reopening wounds just to feel familiar pain, that version has to die. Yeah, it has to die. Not because you're heartless, because you're finally smart. Because if you keep dragging that old self forward, you're handing them the same weapon and asking them to wound you differently. That's not healing. That's addiction. Addiction to the idea that if you just suffer well enough, you'll earn love. You don't earn love by bleeding. You earn peace by leaving. And leaving doesn't always look like a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes leaving is silent. Sometimes leaving is you changing your standards and never announcing it. Sometimes leaving is you protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You want to know what power looks like? It's not screaming. It's not proving. It's not exposing. Power is when you stop reacting, when you stop feeding chaos, when you stop giving access to people who misuse it. Power is when you delete the message and your heart doesn't beg you to reply. Power is when you hear an apology and your body doesn't relax because you finally learned that words don't heal patterns. Power is when you walk away without a speech, without a scene, and you don't look back to see if they noticed. And that is what destroys them. Because people can handle your anger. They can paint you as emotional. They can twist your words. They can play victim, but they can't argue with your silence. They can't manipulate what you don't say. They can't gaslight a wall. They can't rewrite a story when you stop showing up to perform in it. Your silence becomes a mirror, and they hate mirrors. They'll call you cold, distant, changed, unrecognizable, good, because the version of you they liked was the one that tolerated disrespect. The one that stayed small so they could feel big. The one that kept forgiving so they wouldn't have to grow. You didn't become cruel, you became aware, and awareness is a blade. Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. This road hurts. You're going to miss people who didn't deserve you. You're going to romanticize memories and forget the nights you begged for basic effort. You're going to replay conversations in your head and wonder if you should have said more, or less, or nothing at all. But in the middle of that mental noise, I need you to remember one thing. You survived what was supposed to kill you. Not just emotionally, spiritually, mentally, you survived. And that survival is proof that you were never weak. You were just tired of fighting battles you didn't start. So here's your warning, and it's also your invitation. If you go back now, you will regret it. If you break your silence for the wrong person again, you will regret it. If you reopen the door to the same storm that shattered you, you will regret it. Because regret is louder than heartbreak. Heartbreak fades. Regret stays in your bones, whispering, you knew better. And you do know better now. People always come back when they feel your absence, not because they've changed, but because your silence makes them uncomfortable. They miss the warmth you gave them. They miss the way you held them together. They miss having you as a safety net while they played with your trust. They will test you. They will send a, hey, a miss you, a can we talk? A nostalgic memory, like bait on a hook. Not always to rebuild, sometimes just to see if you're still available. And that's where you choose yourself. You don't owe them closure. The silence is the closure. You don't owe them access. The distance is the answer. You don't owe them an explanation. They lived the consequences. Because peace isn't loud. Peace is the quiet you feel when you stop negotiating your worth. Peace is the calm that comes when you stop trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. So keep walking, keep quiet, keep building. Let them drown in the echoes of what they ignored. Let them feel the absence like a wound. Let them wonder why the old version of you doesn't pick up the phone anymore. And if you're standing at the edge right now, between who you were and who you're about to become, hear me clearly. Don't turn around. Don't soften just because you miss the feeling of being wanted. Don't confuse nostalgia with love, because the new you, the quiet you, the self-respecting you, that's your real comeback. By the end of this video, you'll wish you heard this sooner, but you heard it now. So don't waste it. Let the silence speak for you now. Let it protect what's left of your fire. And here's the part that stings the most. The part you don't say out loud because it makes you feel stupid for caring. You didn't just miss them. You missed the version of yourself you were when you still believed, when you still thought effort meant something, when you still thought love was a promise and not a performance. You missed the innocence.
You miss the hope. You miss the way you used to look at people, like they were capable of being better. But hope, when it's pointed at the wrong person, becomes a leash, and you've been dragged long enough. You ever notice how you can feel someone pulling away before they ever admit it? They get quieter, slower. Their replies start sounding like chores. Their effort comes in random bursts, just enough to reset your faith, just enough to keep you from leaving. And you tell yourself, they're just busy. They're just stressed. They're just going through something. No, kid, they're going through you. And if you're not careful, you'll turn your whole life into a waiting room, waiting for them to understand, waiting for them to choose you, waiting for them to become the person they pretended to be in the beginning. That's the trap, the beginning. Because the beginning is where they sell you the dream, the attention, the warmth, the words that make you feel seen, the "I've never met anyone like you," the "you're different," the "I'm not like the others." And then you fall for it. Not because you're weak, but because you're genuine. You think if someone says it, they mean it. You think if you show up, they'll respect it. You think love is supposed to grow. But some people don't plant love. They harvest it. They take it from you, drain it, and then when the soil gets dry, they blame you for not blooming. So tell me, how many times did you apologize for being hurt? How many times did you swallow your pride to keep them close? How many times did you lower your standards just to stop the conflict, just to keep the connection alive? That's not loyalty. That's self-erasure. And it's quiet. It's so quiet. You don't even notice you're disappearing until you can't recognize your own mind anymore. You start waking up with tension in your jaw, and you don't even know why. You start overthinking every word you say. You start choosing silence, not because it's power, but because you're scared of being called too much. You start measuring your love like it's a crime scene, counting evidence, searching for proof that they still care, searching for a reason to stay. And that's when you need to hear this. Not tomorrow, not when they leave again, not when you've already lost another year trying to fix a person who enjoys breaking you. Now, because there comes a moment in every strong person's life where you realize you've been making excuses for somebody's character. You've been interpreting their neglect as confusion. You've been translating their selfishness into their healing. You've been calling their disrespect miscommunication. No, it was always a choice. And when you accept that, something inside you goes still. Not numb, not dead, just clear, like fog lifting. That clarity is your turning point. People will tell you to forgive, to be the bigger person, to keep your heart soft. And sure, forgiveness is beautiful. But here's what nobody warns you about. Forgiveness without boundaries is permission. You can forgive someone and still lock the door. You can love someone and still walk away. You can miss someone and still refuse to return to the version of yourself that begged for basic decency. That's growth. That's power. That's the quiet kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. Because the truth is, the world rewards people who protect themselves, not because it's fair, but because it's real. The world will take what you allow. People will test what you tolerate. And if your heart has no gate, anyone can walk in, trash the place, and leave you cleaning up the mess. So you build the gate, not with anger, with standards. And standards are not cruelty. They are self-respect made visible. You know what happens when you stop explaining yourself? Your life
gets lighter. You stop writing paragraphs to people who read your love like entertainment. You stop justifying your pain to people who caused it. You stop arguing with someone's lack of empathy like it's a puzzle you can solve. You accept what they are. You accept what they're not. And you move quietly. That's the part they can't handle. When you stop trying to convince them, when you stop trying to be understood, when you stop asking them to meet you halfway and start walking your own road alone. People think being alone is the punishment. It's not. Being alone is the detox. It's where you hear yourself again. It's where you realize you don't actually miss them. You miss the feeling of being attached. You miss the routine. You miss having someone to pour into because you're a giver, and givers get addicted to giving, even when it costs them everything. But the cure is simple. Start giving to yourself with the same intensity you gave to them. Start checking on your own heart. Start protecting your own peace. Start being loyal to the person who's been with you through every betrayal. You. Because if you don't, you'll keep repeating the same story with different faces, different names, same emptiness, same late night overthinking, same, why wasn't I enough? You were enough. You were just handing your enough to people who didn't deserve it. Let's talk about the silence again, because silence is not just absence. Silence is a message, a boundary, a funeral. Silence is the moment you stop giving them your energy to play with. Silence is the moment you stop feeding a dynamic that only works because you keep reacting. Silence is when you realize attention is a currency, and you've been paying people who never delivered what they promised. So you stop paying. You go quiet. And in the beginning, it feels like withdrawal. Your hands itch to text. Your mind tries to bargain. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe they'll change. Maybe I should just send one last message. One last message is how you reopen the cage. One last message is how you reset the cycle. One last message is how you betray the new version of you that's trying to be born. And let me tell you something about becoming. Becoming is violent. Not on the outside, but inside. It's the tearing away of old attachments, old beliefs, old fantasies. Becoming requires you to grieve a person who is still alive, to grieve a future you imagined, to grieve the version of them that never existed outside of your hope. That grief will come in waves. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you'll feel weak. Some days you'll laugh and think you're finally free. Then you'll hear a song, see a place, smell a memory, and it'll punch you in the throat. That's normal. But don't mistake grief for a sign you should return. Grief is proof you were real. Grief is proof you meant it. Grief is proof you had depth. But depth is wasted on shallow people. So you keep going. And here's the part that sounds cold, but saves your life. Stop trying to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves. Stop seeking closure from someone whose entire personality is avoidance. Stop expecting accountability from someone who survives by denying reality. You will not get the apology you deserve from everyone. Some people don't apologize. They replace you. Some people don't explain. They disappear. Some people don't repair. They repeat. So you stop waiting. You stop hoping. You stop handing your power to someone who proved they can't be trusted with it. And eventually, something shifts. You wake up, and the silence doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels clean. It feels like space. It feels like air finally returning to your lungs after years of emotional suffocation. You start enjoying your own company again. You start noticing small things,
the taste of coffee, the sound of rain, the way your mind is calmer when you're not trying to interpret someone's mixed signals like a code. You realize peace is not exciting. Peace is stable. Peace is boring to people addicted to chaos. Peace is quiet. And that's why so many people don't choose it, because peace requires them to face their own emptiness without distractions. But you're learning. You're learning that attention is not love, that consistency is not control, that silence is not weakness, that boundaries are not cruelty. You're learning that the strongest thing you can say sometimes is nothing at all. And yes, they will feel it. They will feel the distance like a temperature drop. They will feel your absence in rooms you used to fill with your effort. They will feel the lack of your forgiveness, the lack of your comfort, the lack of your emotional labor. They'll call you selfish when you stop serving them. They'll call you cold when you stop warming them. They'll call you changed when you stop being usable. Let them. Because the truth is, the most powerful moment in your life is when you stop caring how people who mishandled you feel about your healing. They don't get a vote. They don't get access. They don't get a seat at the table in the life you're rebuilding. So keep going. Keep quiet. Keep your standards high and your explanations low. And if you feel yourself slipping, if you feel that old urge to return to what hurt you because it's familiar, remember this: familiar pain is still pain, and the price of going back is your future. By the end of this journey, you'll wish you protected yourself sooner. You'll wish you stopped begging sooner. You'll wish you chose your peace sooner. So choose it now. Let the silence speak for you now. Let it be the line you don't cross again.